We're back and you're going to join me for a rainy Thursday shift. This is going to be a juicy one. My usual route, I come in over the top of Hampstead Heath and down into Heath Street. I'm super lucky that I managed to pick up right here on Heath Street.
That's me. Hand up. Yeah, buddy. Hello, sir.
Gentleman doesn't want to go far. He just wants to go to Belsize Park. Not the station, the name of the road, Belsize Park. We just run it down Fitzjohn's Avenue. I actually take the left into Buckland Crescent because even though the school's on Belsize Park, the best entrance is here on the junction of Buckland Crescent and Belsize Park. He's happy to hop out here as he's a little bit early to pick up his son. From here, I continue forward into Belsize Avenue and take my right onto Haverstock Hill, going past Belsize Park Station. What's been working quite well for me this summer is heading into town via Camden. Lots of tourists are visiting the Stables Market and you can sometimes get a bewildered looking American coming out the back there. However, today, I'm not so lucky. So my next option is either to head to St Pancras Station or Euston Station. En route, my taxi apps are pinging quite a lot. There's a lot of activity in this area, but I hold my nerve. I'm feeling I'm going to get a street hail, but it doesn't happen. So reluctantly, I join the Euston rank and there's a few taxis there, but I can see very quickly they are loading up and away.
3 people picking up.
You can learn a little bit more about how this new rank works, as well as previous iterations of the Euston taxi rank over here. As I join, you'll see that there's this cab on my right that looks like he's about to overtake me, but all he's doing is creating a new split in the rank. We're not waiting long until we're loading up, and I can hear my punters coming up on the pavement behind me. I've got my window open, and they actually remark upon my bumper sticker. I've got the Magical Taxi Tour bumper sticker still on, and they must have seen the popular TikTok and Instagram reels of the 100 taxis that I was part of that took sick kids over to Disney. They hop on in, they just want to go to Marylebone Station. They tell me that the trains are down at Euston because of a fatality. Now, depending on where they're going, they can obviously go to Marylebone and then get a different train that still ends them up in the same direction. Lots of terminuses in London do this, so there might be an alternative to one other station that gets you roughly in the area you need to be, or you could change halfway up the country. Just after 3:30, I'm dropping off at Marylebone, and I can see there's not many taxis on the rank here at Melcombe Place. When you do join the rank here at Melcombe Place, it's got this wonderful, like, Victorian-esque awning on it. You've got to remember to look up Harewood Avenue, because there's actually a feeder rank in the middle of the road, and I might be jumping in front of taxis just because I see this rank moving up. So you've got to make sure there's no taxis hanging up there, and it goes quite far up Harewood Avenue. And I don't have to wait that long until some guests come out of the Landmark Hotel. The cab in front gets a job, and I have a lady come up to my window who asks for Peninsula. Now, she probably means the Pan Peninsula Hotel at Hyde Park Corner, but I get her to confirm this. No doubt I'd probably get her there and be like, oh no, I wanted the O2 Peninsula. So I try not to put words in the customer's mouth. My golden rule is get the customer to confirm it. So we leave by Great Central Street, which is the side of the Landmark Hotel, left onto Marylebone Road, and I'm going to get a right into Baker Street. As I come down Baker Street, I notice it gets a bit slow right by Portman Square. Now, all I'm doing here is I just want to get past Selfridges, North Audley Street, right Green Street, and onto Park Lane like I normally do. Because it's kind of slow here, I'm thinking I'm going to cut round the back of you out onto Gloucester Place. It just cuts out this kind of awkwardness here. Portman Square, south, brings you right out onto Oxford Street in front of Primark, and then you use Marble Arch to get down Park Lane. Just saves us a bit of time there. As we cruise down Park Lane, you can see the newest point on the knowledge, which is the Tent City, which seems to be growing in numbers as the weeks go by. All relatively clear down the bottom of Park Lane. Into Grosvenor Crescent and left into that little forecourt for the Peninsula. Nice. Time to stop and have a debrief in Belgrave Square. There's just leaves everywhere. All the plane trees are shedding their leaves. Not a bad start, and it does look like there's quite a bit of work about. There was quite a lot of hands going on down Baker Street. I came out yesterday. I had a really long day yesterday. But sometimes it's quite annoying when you come out and you put more hours in, but you don't get more money out. And you think, what am I doing out here? It's such a waste. But there is a hell of a lot of closures in town. There's just so much stuff where you come up to it and you're like, oh, that's closed, that's closed. And that's the biggest issue. If you don't get out a lot, it can be really hard to keep up with the minutiae day-to-day kind of stuff. You need a lot of test subjects. You need a lot of word on the street from other cab drivers. Yeah, and whilst I'm stopped here, just waiting for an opportune moment for the traffic to ease up, it's not a bad time to introduce some Y food. Now it's that point where I've just got into town, I've just started getting into the groove of work, and then I'm feeling a little bit peckish. That's where Y food sorts me out. During my shift, I had one of their super tasty bars just to keep me tied over until the evening. And here, as I'm sat down at my desk filming, I know I'm going to be here for a few hours, I'm consuming the fudge brownie flavour of their ready-to-drink drinks. These are a complete meal replacement shake. Fudge brownie is such a rich flavour. If you love the classic choco but just need a little bit more, this one's for you. And even though it tastes that so much more indulgent, it's the same amount of calories and profile as all their other drinks. So you're still going to get the 35 grams of protein as well as 500 calories, which is going to leave you full and sustained till your next meal. That's why I always keep them handy when I'm working at home and always in my bag whenever I go to work, because I never know where I'm going to be and I don't really want to resort to eating crap from a petrol station. I'd highly recommend giving them a go, and Y food are sorting you guys out by giving you a full 10% off of your next order. You can use that on everything, no minimums, no maximums. That's 10% off site-wide. Just use my code, which is taxi-YouTube, or the link in the description down below. Back to work. Now, Belgrave Square seems to have a lot of traffic around it, and it looks like this part of Wilton Crescent is shut. So I actually end up getting stuck in this bit of Cadogan Place for some time, and all I'm wanting to do is just find a job. Obviously, getting to Knightsbridge is going to be difficult to get the Mandarin or Harrods. I'm really thinking I want to try to get on the back door of Harrods. That's all I can get in this area. Eventually, I do manage to get a hail just here outside the Scottish Church, or St Columba's Church, here on Pont Street. But I don't want to go far. I just want Kinnerton Street. It's the worst when you just want a bit of movement, but I know I'm going to be stuck in quite a bit of traffic to get them there, as we've just seen. There's no real way I can dodge this, unfortunately. I'm not too sure how much of Wilton Crescent is shut from what I saw earlier. But regardless, I've got to head that way, just go through those painful traffic lights, through Pont Street, past the German Embassy, around Belgrave Square. And no, I've got to go up Grosvenor Crescent, around the top of Wilton Crescent, and back down on myself to then get a right into Mottcombe Street, right Kinnerton Street, and just drop them up near the top there. The great thing about that job though is that it allowed me to ride the traffic a bit. Now I can just exit by Wilton Place. I could join the Berkeley Hotel, there's no taxis there, but I'm feeling Harrods. So straight along the Brompton Road, and I neatly managed to join on the back here. What a touch. Couple of minutes of waiting and I get these ladies who wish to go to Regent Street, just off to another shopping district. Now they're super helpful and they tell me that they specifically want Lululemon. I love it when customers do this, because that then means I can cut out a lot of the rubbish, because they've told me specifically where they want. I know that Lululemon is basically opposite Hamleys, so I can use New Burlington Street to get me there. As I pull off of Harrods, I can see that Brompton Road is heavy eastbound, so I use my little Trevor Square wiggle trick to bring me out onto Knightsbridge by the barracks. Fortunately, it's quite heavy there as well, but I can eventually work my way into the bus lane. I still stand by the fact that this is more often quicker, because us cabbies can specifically use that bus lane. I head on through Knightsbridge, Piccadilly Underpass, Piccadilly. Now, I'm unsure if Sackville Street is open, and that brings you out by like the bottom of Regent Street, just after the curve. I take the left into Albemarle Street, and then that way I can sort of wiggle around the top, come down Old Bond Street, Burlington Gardens, up Cork and Clifford, can't remember which way round it is, Savile Row, and then New Burlington Street. It is wiggly, but you do keep moving. That is the good thing about these back streets. New Burlington Street, left Regent Street, and I can drop them straight there. Easy. I continue up Regent Street. I've got some kind of a confidence I'm going to be able to get something in the shopping district at this time. And yep, just after the Apple store, right by Oxford Circus, this lady hops on in and she wants Harrods. It's that old shuttle bus in action. Lovely. I'm incredibly tempted at this point to do a U-turn on Oxford Circus and come back down Regent Street, because that way I can just sort of drop straight into Mayfair and be out onto Piccadilly. But I've got to be real here. I've got to assess the situation, and because there's quite a bit of pedestrians, traffic coming southbound, the U-turn's not happening. So I get a left onto Oxford Street and I opt to cut in via New Bond Street. Come down New Bond Street, take a right into Brook Street, going past Claridge's and around Grosvenor Square. What I also like to think about when I'm out driving sometimes is as though certain roads are like travelators at the airport. Certain roads, even if it is the quicker, more direct route on the map, just don't move. You just get stuck on them. So I like to think of the ones that literally are travelators, that you get on them and it just shoots you along. So Brook Street isn't too bad. Grosvenor Square, you can cut quite a bit out. Normally I would take Upper Grosvenor Street to get out on Park Lane, but it's down to one lane, so the traffic's accumulating a bit here. So down South Audley, get myself a right onto Mount Street and get ourselves onto Park Lane, the ultimate travelator road. Park Lane is a little bit heavier than it was earlier. Round Hyde Park Corner. Into Knightsbridge, but left into Brompton Road. And then as we're pulling up by the taxis, she does that old fabled passenger trick of just saying, stop here.
Yeah, I can't stop here. I've just got to go in front of these taxis here.
I'm going to go a little bit further forward, so it's safe to do so. I can drop a little bit further back before the zigzags if I have some advance notice, or I can go beyond the taxi rank. But generally, I don't really want to be blocking Brompton Road. It is a major route out of London after all. And also, if you do just stop here, it's never a quick getaway. And sod's law, they take their time, a car comes up behind you and starts beeping. Just take a little bit more time and thought and effort and move further down to make it all flow a bit better. So 5:15, I do my utmost best to try and get on the back door of Harrods. Sadly, there is a little bit of overranking going on here. Always super annoying because it might look like a bit of carnage on the back door, but that rank clears out so quickly, generally at this time of year. And because of all the construction works going on in Belgravia, I know if I don't get on the rank, I will just be out into Belgravia and stuck in endless traffic, which is what happens. It takes me 5 minutes just to get around this crescent. Oh, so frustrating. Not wanting to sit in the traffic that comes out onto Pont Street, I go around the crescent a bit further and go around to the beginning of Walton Street. Very lucky to get a job just there. Nice. Now this gentleman wants to go to Victoria Station. He just sort of says, what's your kind of quickest way of getting there? From where we are here, like in the Knightsbridge kind of Kensington area, I will generally drop on Buckingham Palace Road if they want to get there quickly. Because otherwise you've got to go around the whole Victoria Gyratory in some way to drop passengers at Victoria Station. All they've got to then do from there is just cross over the road at Buckingham Palace and in the hole-in-the-wall entrance there. Because of the traffic I've already experienced in this area, like along Pont Street, junction of Sloane Street, I know it is awful and I can see how bad it is. So I just opt to keep the cab moving. I'm thinking I'm going to drop down to Sloane Square because to complete my route, to get him to Buckingham Palace Road, I need the Eatons at the minimum, Eaton Square. So then you can get yourself to Elizabeth Street and then just peel left out, right? So Eaton's, I can get that from Sloane Square. Let's try that. Just as awful, just as bad. That whole area is a complete nightmare. Gridlock. As I get into Cliveden Place, I can see the light phases up ahead at Eaton Gate. So I just take a right into Eaton Terrace, so I go left into Ebury Street and right into Elizabeth Street. Just cuts out the odd traffic light. Left Buckingham Palace Road, just opposite the hole in the wall, and he just wants to go a little bit further up. I think he wants to get in by Shakespeare's Head. And as I drop off here, I'm lucky to get an on and off job. This lady just wishes to go to the St Giles Hotel, Tottenham Court Road. Now, I can see that in this area, Grosvenor Place is very heavy northbound. I can see it as we turn around into Grosvenor Gardens. So I'm thinking I'm going to get over into the Mall, through Marlborough Gate, round the bottom of Marlborough Gate, and I've presented with lots of options of how to get north from there. But I'm generally thinking I'm probably going to get to Shaftesbury Avenue and assess the traffic there as to whether I cut it up a little bit. So, Marlborough Gate, go around that little roundabout at the bottom, along Pall Mall, left into Regent Street, St James's, forward into Piccadilly, leave that by Shaftesbury Avenue. And I'm thinking I could go into Soho here, but it does seem to be flowing okay, so I just continue on, left at Cambridge Circus, getting us into Charing Cross Road, forward into Tottenham Court Road, and of course I can't go no further than the right into Great Russell Street, because it's before 7 o'clock. So I just let her know of this, and she's really worried about getting lost in London, so I just really clearly instruct her as to where the St Giles Hotel is. There's no other way really for me to drop her. It really is quite amazing how just getting in the flow of conversation with a passenger can really help traffic dissipate and just make the journey so much more enjoyable, both for them and for myself driving. Thank goodness, just away from that Belgravia madness. That was ridiculous. But yeah, thankfully it all rolled well and I've had one out of that area, which is nice. I'm in the West End, right when I need to be here, 6 o'clock. And she was a nice lady. She was very nice. One in, one out. And there's VQ up there where we had that 24-hour chicken Milanese. So let's assess a plan of action. What are the groups saying? Massive queue at St Pancras, no cabs. This is the thing, you can get like Intel and stuff, but there's where I am now, I'm Great Russell Street. It's going to take me probably 20 minutes to get up to St Pancras. There's no point going there. Paddington, 9 cabs. So something to bear in mind, St Pancras maybe, but I'm just going to hunt around here. I think there's a good enough amount of work about. There's not a lot of cabs with the lights on. It's looking good. I actually get this couple, and they wish to go to Gaucho, Covent Garden. So that's today's brain bender of a route. How will I get from Great Russell Street to Gaucho, Covent Garden? Honestly, it involved me looking at Google Maps for quite some time. Because it sits south of Long Acre and Shelton Street, I can't even do that weird little convoluted wiggle by coming in 7 dials. I have to go all the way along to West Street, go past the Ivy, to get the left into Long Acre, and because it's on the pedestrianised part of Floral Street, I can't get them there either. Although Google Maps seems to think I can drive along Floral Street, which we haven't been able to do that for about 4 years, so it's pretty good I know what I'm doing. I just drop them by the station and just say, look, it's through there, Floral Street, corner of James Street, and away you go. I head out onto the Strand, get this job over to the Biltmore. Not really many ways that you can run this one. You just bash it along the Strand. Around King Charles I Island, leave that by Cockspur Street. A little bit of traffic and works going on there. Along Pall Mall, right into St James's Street, forward into Albemarle Street. Then you get a little left into Stafford Street and get a right into Dover Street. Left Hay Hill, right into Berkeley Street, around Berkeley Square. And then we get ourselves a left into Mount Street, bear that round into Carlos Place, and drop there at the Biltmore on the south side of Grosvenor Square. It's that sort of busy time where everyone's loading up to get to restaurants and theatres and places like that. So I managed to get an on and off at the Biltmore. Now, the gentleman just shows me his phone and it's like a pin on a map. And I'm pretty good at kind of ascertaining where these maps are. And I believe it to be Chancery Lane. On a run like this, the issue is there's just too many options to choose from. The thing that's swaying it for me is because he's specifically shown me Chancery Lane and right at the bottom of Chancery Lane, well, Chancery Lane runs one way northbound. So you have to get in from Fleet Street and it runs upwards towards Holborn. Therefore, I've got to come in from Fleet Street. Therefore, I'm pretty much at the Aldwych. Therefore, I've either got to come down the Kingsway or the Strand. I opt for the Strand. So leaving it, I just take the right into Blackburn's Mews to go back around the top of Grosvenor Square, reverse it around Carlos Place, back past the Connaught Hotel and into Mount Street. Get ourselves around Berkeley Square and leave that by Berkeley Street. Now this can be a little bit heavy, sometimes it's neater to use Curzon Street and Fitzmaurice Place, but this doesn't seem too bad today. Left into Piccadilly and I ride the whole length of Piccadilly because it looks reasonably clear for this time of day. Through Piccadilly Circus and down the Haymarket. What I'm going to do just to cut out a little bit of Trafalgar Square is use that little rat run of Orange Street. Better not call it a rat run, otherwise Westminster's probably going to close it. Come out onto Charing Cross Road. From there I can get a left into Duncannon Street, left onto the Strand, and that sets us up for the Aldwych as I alluded to earlier. Left into the remainder of the Strand past the Royal Courts of Justice, forward Fleet Street, and left into Chancery Lane. Now as I pull up on the right hand side, where I believed his pin was, he actually says, no, I want Gray's Inn Road. Kind of annoying because that's kind of influenced my whole route. If you wanted Gray's Inn Road, I probably would have come in from the top. No bother, right into Holborn, left into Gray's Inn Road, and I just awkwardly stop him there. We're going up Gray's Inn Road and he's like, stop here. And you're like, oh, I can't stop here. I've got a cyclist there. Oh, just the minor stresses of this job. And it gets really exacerbated in conditions like this. You know, rain coming down, low light, you've got cyclists coming up on your inside who haven't got any lights on them. It just makes it that much more difficult. You're having to look out for all these things. How cyclists are allowed to, you know, cycle roundabout lights on, I do not know, because it is literally invisibility. When you're having to make so many constant decisions, you know, every time you turn left and you're having to look at pedestrian, traffic light, car there, cyclist there, like, it's just a lot of things that you're mentally juggling whilst driving. And obviously you get attuned to it, you know what to look out for, but you can't ever fully switch off because there's so much to do. From here, I'm not really feeling going into the city for whatever reason. With a little bit of rain, I'm thinking the West End should still be okay for me. So I come down via Red Lion Square, Proctor Street, and I have someone hail me on the corner of Proctor Street and High Holborn. Nice. They're just after His Majesty's Theatre. Easy peasy, Haymarket. Bosh. So this is part of an original Blue Book run, I believe, but you just run through High Holborn, forward Shaftesbury Avenue, forward Cambridge Circus, forward Shaftesbury Avenue, left into that little bit of Great Windmill Street, forward in the Haymarket, and set them down there on the right just in time for the theatre starting. Now I'm ready for my evening dinner. Sometimes around the 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock period, work can go a little bit dry and slack, so this is the best time for me to stop and have a bit of dinner. It's all getting a little bit too much for me. I'm absolutely hank. So, Chipotle time. Yep, I need food. Food. Grab all your belongings. Actually, if you sign up to the email newsletter, they're not that great on loyalties, but when it comes to your birthday, they give you buy one, get one free. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a burrito for tonight, and I'm going to get chicken and rice takeaway to have for tomorrow. So let's give that a spin. As I get back into my cab, I notice I've got some bewildered looking Americans around me. They just wish to go to the Westminster Hotel. I swear it's one of those hotels that always changes name. It's either the Curio or the Westminster or something else. But I know where they mean. It's just off of John Islip Street, which is Dean Ryle Street, which is that kind of Millbank Circus area. Pretty much a straight line. Bosh it down Charing Cross Road, down the east side of Trafalgar Square, comply by King Charles I Island, leave by Whitehall, forward into Parliament Street, then you go past Old Palace Yard, forward into Millbank. I can see it getting a little bit heavy around Millbank Circus, where they've removed the gigantic, it's like a palm tree, isn't it? They've removed that from Millbank Circus, don't know what they're going to do with it, and they've put a load of this hoarding up. It's kind of slowed up a lot of the movements on that roundabout. So I cut through Smith Square so I can get a forward into Dean Ryle Street, forward into John Islip Street, and just set them down on the left there. easy. I leave the hotel and in an amazing stroke of luck, I managed to pick up on Millbank. Now, this might be indicative that it's a little bit busy tonight. I guess Thursday, little bit of rain, it's following the school holidays, might not be that bad. This lady wishes to go to Carlotta restaurant, top of Marylebone High Street. Again, it sort of throws up some options of how I can do this. I double check on Google just to see what the traffic conditions are like, and it's telling me that Regent Street is clear. So up Parliament Square, leave that by Parliament Street, forward Whitehall, comply by King Charles I Island and leave that by Cockspur Street. Bear left into Pall Mall and get yourself a right into Regent Street, St James's. Forward Piccadilly Circus, forward Regent Street, over Oxford Circus and forward into Regent Street. And fortunately, it is that kind of middle hour where everyone's set in the restaurants and the theatres that it makes driving up Regent Street a breeze. Forward into Portland Place, and I'm going to get a left into New Cavendish Street. Right into Wimpole Street, left into Devonshire Street, and left into Marylebone High Street. The only difficult bit about this restaurant is the set. There's a lot of crossings that converge here, so lots of zigzags, and the only bit without a zigzag blocks the road entirely. So I just bear it round on the Paddington Street. It does block the road a little bit, but we get her out, we move her on. I did see as I was dropping off, there was a couple of other cabs picking up in this area. So I'm thinking I'm just going to loop back on myself and do a full drive of Marylebone High Street. I pick up a gent who's outside of the, I don't know what it is, but it's at the top of Marylebone High Street. It's another restaurant up there. And he's after Harrods. Now, as soon as he gets in, he asks me if I can drive as fast as I can.
Well, I can only go as fast as the road goes. Yeah, I don't hang about, mate. Like...
I love this because it makes no influence whatsoever on how I drive. When I'm out driving my cab anyway, I am driving as fast as reasonably possible. Obviously taking in speed limits into mind, taking into traffic conditions, road conditions. It's not in my best interest to hang around in the taxi at all. The sooner I get off this job, the sooner I can get onto the next job. So just go at my normal speed, take the best route I can, which is just straight down Marylebone Street, forward into James Street, and then forward into Gilbert Street. I basically just want to get myself out on the Park Lane and just do the usual route to Harrods. Gilbert Street, right Brook Street, round Grosvenor Square. Upper Grosvenor Street still looking a bit busy, so I do the South Audley and Mount Street I did earlier. Bash it all the way around Hyde Park Corner. Knightsbridge, Brompton Road, and as the traffic starts to build up here, he just wants to be dropped here on Brompton Road. And as always, it's usually the people that have requests like, oh, drive as fast as you can, driver, who never reciprocate it. But the fact he's jumped out early actually works better for me because I'm now clear, checked behind me to make sure I wasn't blocking any cabs. I can jump straight onto Harrods. Very nice. These gents pop in and ask for the Connaught. Now, there's a certain way I got caught with this years ago, actually. I had some lads get in with like a Middle Eastern accent and they were asking for the Connaught, but they were saying Cannot or like the Cannot, and I was like, what on earth is the Cannot? Cannot. And in the end, I think he got so annoyed that I just couldn't figure out where they wanted to go. He was like, just go straight, I'll tell you where to go. By this point, Brompton Road is clear, so I can get the U-turn and head out that way into Knightsbridge. Really, to get the Connaught properly, I need Deanery Street, but as I approach, Deanery Street is still shut. There's a lot of works going on at that junction. So I have to go up Park Lane, around Brook Gate and back down Park Lane to get a left into Mount Street. I hate driving along Mount Street. It's just like, why anyone would park a really nice car there, I don't know, because you can't get two cars passing each other very well along there. Anyway, I have to for the sake of this run. Mount Street, just pull into that little bit of the Connaught Hotel, touch. As I drop, I'm hoping it's going to be one of those times where the concierge is like, do you want to go again? I've got another job for you. But he hasn't. But looking over to the right, I can see that the rank is empty. I've been kind of on and off for a little while. I just pull up on that rank because I get a little bit of time to compose my thoughts. not long to compose my thoughts at all, as this lady comes over to me and she's just after Marylebone Station. Nice simple run. It's basically I've got to get to Park Street, run it all the way up, turn left at Dorset Square, and bosh, there's your Marylebone Station. So leaving it, you just go up the continuation of Carlos Place, around the bottom half of Grosvenor Square, right into Park Street. Not much I can do here, it's the most direct run up. It does get a little bit congestion on Park Street, but forward into Portman Square, forward Gloucester Place, Dorset Square, you get your left, forward it through into Melcombe Place. The police are there taping something off, I don't know what's gone on. And the bit where I'd normally drop off is taken, so I'd sort of say, is it right, drop here? But she's adamant to get a little bit closer. Sometimes when this happens, I just let them start paying in the back, and if an opportunity arises, I will get a little bit closer, because, you know, she's having a bit of mobility issues with walking, so if I can get her that bit closer, that's always a nice touch. As I can't directly access the rank because the police are having taping it off, I just decide to leave and just go elsewhere. I head back into the West End and I'm following a few cabs along Baker Street, but I get caught in that little bit of traffic that we experienced earlier by Portman Square. Remember, there was some temporary traffic lights going on here. So I think, you know what? I'm going to dive into Marylebone. There's always usually a little bit of activity going on in some of the nice restaurants there. Top of Marylebone High Street, I get that same pickup by the Carlotta restaurant. The lady just wishes to go to Audley Square. Now, I could, normally I think I would just habituate and just go along Paddington Street, down Baker Street and just run it straight down and around Grosvenor Square. But because I just got caught in that little bit of temporary lights at Portman Square, I let her know I'm just going to go around the Marylebone High Street one-way system again, because we're in that little bit of one-way, so we can go straight down the High Street. And I let her know there's traffic lights at Portman Square. Luckily, she's a local. She understands there's a bit of traffic lights going on there. And I just take that same route that I took that guy who wanted to go a bit faster earlier. Down South Audley Street, continue it down, and Audley Square is just there on the left-hand side. Ping my way out onto Piccadilly, and there's a hand waiting for me there. This old gent just wants to go to Campden Hill Road, Kensington. He's up near the top end. So I spin it back round through the Piccadilly underpass. I'm going to run this via Kensington. En route, I can also assess how the Royal Albert Hall is looking. You know, if it's bursting, maybe I can get a job there after I've dropped this gent off. Forward into Kensington High Street, and then I just get a right up into Campden Hill Road. He's up near the top there. I let him know I've got to move off the zebras a little bit. He understands our plight as cabbies and that I could very easily earn a £60 fine for doing this. I tried the Royal Albert Hall, but there's not really much activity going on there. I see the Mandarin is empty, so jump on the back there. If the Mandarin is empty, I find it's one of those ranks that I'm often as good as sitting there than I am just continuing straight forward into Piccadilly and picking up on Piccadilly. It doesn't take long at all. I get a couple of young ladies who wish to go to Bond's on New Bond Street. To be honest, I've not really heard of this, but it's just a little pub tucked away on Dering Street, right near the top of New Bond Street, near the Grand Seiko boutique. Oh yeah. Off the Hyde Park Corner slip road, round the top of Hyde Park Corner, so we can get up Park Lane. Then I know I can't do Deanery Street, as we learnt from that job earlier, so I come in via Brook Gate and just go forward over Grosvenor Square, forward into Brook Street, and forward into... Is it still Brook Street at that point? It is still Brook Street at that point. I drop them on the corner of Brook Street and New Bond Street. They're more than happy to just walk up the rest of the way. I get another job, straight on and off. Now these people just wish to go to Ladbroke Grove, but I like to ask where on Ladbroke Grove they wish to go. Because if they're up near the top end, then I might opt to come in from Marylebone Road. Who knows? It just gives me optionality to work out where they are on Ladbroke Grove, because it's a very, very long road, of course. My brain is thinking, right, like I'm currently pointing east, yeah? And Ladbroke Grove is then like behind me and a bit more north, so it's like in the northwest direction. So because in the northwest direction, every part of me wants to just sort of turn left here. But I know, using my Travelator example earlier, that's not going to be that quick because I've got to go around Hanover Square, Holles Street, back along Wigmore Street, a lot of traffic lights there. Not good. So if I do a right into St George's Street to get a right into Grosvenor Street, that's going to set me up very neatly. That road of Grosvenor Street going through into Grosvenor Square always runs like super smooth. That's pretty cool. And eventually I do have to hit Upper Grosvenor Street. I've been avoiding it all day. I'm just going to have to sit in it because I need to get northwest and out onto Park Lane. Left around Marble Arch and along Bayswater Road. Bayswater Road, Lancaster Gate, Bayswater Road. And this is why I ask whereabouts on Ladbroke Grove they are. Because it's quite quiet at night, like right now, I'm fine with going all the way through Notting Hill Gate into Holland Park and just doing a right in the bottom part of Ladbroke Grove. But in the daytime, you sometimes get a lot of vehicles all committing to that right turn into Ladbroke Grove. So sometimes you can cut it up using Kensington Park Road and come out a bit higher on Ladbroke Grove. They just want to be dropped up near the church here on Ladbroke Grove. I drop back into Kensington Park Road and just have a little miniature job here. Kensington Park Road up to Ladbroke Grove. Sweet. Little job like that out here in Notting Hill, you can just turn that around so quickly. Turn it around, drop them off, bang, get paid, and then head back into another job. And now look, it's gone past 11. Kensington High Street. Do want to be going north as per usual. Don't really want to go back into the West End because that could lead me kind of everywhere. I feel like if I stay around here, it's going to stay west. Hopefully get one north. Who knows? Everything to play for. Keep an eye on my apps. Maybe I can get one going home in the right direction. So, Kensington High Street, I get this job to Cranley Gardens. So, right Palace Gate, forward Gloucester Road, forward into Cranley Gardens. Bosh. Another quick one. I'm thinking there might be a bit of residual fallout from the Royal Albert Hall. Maybe we can get someone who wants to go to Marylebone or King's Cross. What a touch that will be. What do we get? Putney. I'm in the wrong part of town. I just want to get them there as quick as I can, drop them, take the money, and just get home, right? Smash and grab. This whole job takes 35 minutes, and it's the worst thing at the end of your shift. Basically, there's going to be some very long works going on Putney Bridge. So 20 minutes of this journey was spent on Putney Bridge. But there's no other real way of doing this. Maybe when the works have been there for long enough, if they're local, they can appreciate you maybe taking Wandsworth Bridge, coming around the Wandsworth Gyratory and getting to Putney that way. But because of the pressure of the fact there's no Hammersmith Bridge anymore, it's either Putney or Wandsworth Bridge. Basically, all the traffic is funneled into one lane with freeway traffic lights on the south side. It was pretty disgusting. I eventually dropped them off just off the Upper Richmond Road, and it's safe to say that's going to be my last job. Thank you for watching this shift. I'm going to leave another one of my favourites on screen for you now. I reckon you should go watch that now. See you again soon. Bye-bye.